Hello, and welcome to Wellness Wednesday with 3W. Wellness Wednesday is sponsored by 3W Medical for Women, a nonprofit medical clinic offering free of charge or low-cost reproductive health services to women in the Seattle area, regardless of income or insurance status. 3W does not profit off of the reproductive health choices women make. The information shared in this podcast is the opinion of the speaker or speakers. Medical information is not intended as individual medical consultation, but for general education only. Always consult your own health professional for personalized advice regarding medical decisions. And if you're in the Seattle area, consider making an appointment to consult with us. I'm Helen Nguyen, CEO and co-founder of 3W Medical for Women and the host of today's podcast. All right, well, hello, Wellness Wednesday listeners. Thank you again for tuning in, joining us. This is the second part of a conversation that I started with Rachael, who is so beautiful and wonderful, shared her story with porn addiction. And of course, it's such a heavy topic and it's a dense topic that I knew we had to come back and peel back another layer because I really want to get into how it affected Rachael or the women that she's working with, just physically, mentally, spiritually. I wanted to get kind of in that. And if you enjoyed our last conversation with Rachael, check out her organization. Rachael, remind our listeners what it is again.
So my organization is called Magdala, and I walk with women as they try to recover from addictions to pornography, masturbation, or other unwanted sexual behaviors.
And it's a booming organization. Rachael shared with us last time that people are reaching out. Women are reaching out to her all the time. You've had 400 women join this conversation.
Over 400 women have reached out. We've got over 30 small groups now.
Amazing. Yeah. Wow. And, we touched on Rachael's story last time and talked a lot about her organization, which I'm so excited to have stumbled upon. And I want to just highlight it as much as possible. But today, let's get into the meat of things, And one of the first questions that I had was when people talk about pornography or masturbation, they say it only affects me. And I feel like that's a very wrong misconception, unfortunately. Right. We see it at 3W all the time with the women that we're so honored to serve. But how would you answer that question, Rachael?
Yeah, I think this is a really common thing. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the primary arguments that I hear that's pro pornography consumption is like, if this is how I want to express myself, if this is how I find satisfaction in my sexuality, who are you to say anything about it? And I think there's too much evidence that it affects your relationships with your friends, with a significant other, with your community, with yourself, that's just not the case. Like it affects more than just you. Pornography destroys marriages. It really does. And I think too many people used it or try to use it as an aid for intimacy in their marriage or in their relationships. And I've seen that just go so south so quick where both partners don't feel loved or paid attention to. It feels like there's another person in the room with them or other people in the room, and I think there's that. I don't think it lends itself to intimacy at all. So I think it creates objectifying mindsets too of other people or objects for my use, for my pleasure, right? And that doesn't end when you close your laptop and aren't looking at a screen anymore. You start doing that to real people in real life, because those people on your screen are real people. Like if that's somebody's brother or sister, that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's husband, these are real people in this industry. And so it doesn't stop when you log off, it creates a lens through which you see the world, a lens through which you see other people around you.
And the mind is such a powerful thing, right? Sometimes if you don't want to see it, if you don't want to connect the dots that those people on the screen or, belongs to someone, you become so desensitized. And our world is constantly telling us that it's a job, they want to engage in it, you know, the folks on the screen.
Yeah.
And from our observation here at 3W, whenever we serve women that are in that industry, no young woman grows up going, I want to be a porn star one day.
Yeah, right?
No, you just kind of fall into it. You just kind of, you know, due to so many unfortunate circumstances, it becomes this option that you didn't even know was on the table. And then, you know, for some women, they do it for a short period of time, get on their feet again financially. And then it's like you said last time, it's such a short thing that you do, you don't even think about it. But the effect that you have on the folks that watch that video is lifelong, I feel like.
I have a couple women in my organization who are small group leaders who were in the porn industry. And they're lovely. They're so incredible. But and I think there is a lot of shame around sex work, and I don't ever believe in shaming women, especially women who have found themselves in that line of work for whatever reason. But I do think there's something about how our conscience reacts to that line of work. Guilt can tell us we've done something wrong or we're doing something unhealthy for us, and it can help us correct course. Shame tells you I am bad. Shame tells you are wrong, you are bad, you're ruined. It attacks the person, it attacks the identity, and that's why it's so harmful. But I think there's something about the way that we still react to sex work, that kind of guilt of like, is this truly what's best for you? Is this truly what's best for me? I think that tells us something about how we should be correcting course, you know? But it definitely, it changes women's mindsets, whether they are an employee in the industry or work in the industry, or if they engage regularly in watching content. It definitely, it just changes. It changes the conception of what your sexuality is for, what other people's sexuality is for. It can't help but rewire, you know? There's a saying in the psych world that the neurons that fire together wire together, right? And so your brain, when it starts reacting to these things and you have this physiological reaction to this content, it can't help but apply like that kind of neuron work in your everyday life, whether or not you're actively engaging in pornography. So there's just physiological evidence of what this does to your brain, which is crazy. Yeah,
it changes the chemicals in your brain or I'm
the
not
makeup of your brain.
Yeah, I'm not a scientist, but when I was reading about it, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, a really good resource is called by Gary Wilson, I believe is his name, rest in peace. But he wrote a book called Your Brain on Porn, I believe.
Yes.
And just purely secular, neurobiological, science-based work. And just talked about that. Like the neurological, I'm not a scientist either, obviously, but you know, the neurological effect of, you know, engaging in frequent porn consumption, what it does to your brain. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as I further got into my little research project, which was very
fun,
like not a lot, but because I wanted to be prepared for our talk. But it just because it's become a more prevalent issue. I just typed in women porn, and I just got a slew of information hit me. So how it changes your approach towards yourself and others. So what you're saying, it does affect other people in other people's lives. This is not just a individual problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it affects, I think the self-perception is something that is important to get into as well, because it affects only me. And it's like, well, how do you want to treat yourself? You know, like how do you want to behave towards yourself? Because I think primarily for women, the portrayal of the female body and the female sexuality in the porn industry is just very skewed. And there's a lot of body standards, fitness standards, makeup standards, hair standards, breast size, like all sorts of different things that go into those images and those videos. And so it can be really, really detrimental as a woman, an ordinary everyday woman who may or may not look like that, watching this and going, this is what the expression of female sexuality is supposed to be. And it can make your sex life performative. and which is super weird. It can make you feel like you have to perform for a partner instead of giving and receiving in a way that's loving and safe and comfortable for both people, and in a way that increases intimacy and unity. Instead, you feel like I must put on an image, I must put on a performance. I can't be encountered in my true self because it's not enough. So I have women who come to me with struggling with eating disorders because that's triggered by porn use. I have all sorts of all sorts of things that point to what this does to the female body image, and then to the male body image as well. They're all men in pornography, or most men in pornography are just very physically fit as well, and like a certain type of masculinity is portrayed, and it's very limited, and it can be really damaging.
It's so, for the folks out there that are saying, men watch porn, now women watch porn, it's so normalized. For the folks that are saying that, well, there's this whole movement now in the last, I want to say 2-3 years now, of embracing certain body images, embracing, short, tall, whatever. And so it's such a contradiction when when you normalize one thing that's, like you said, a performance, an act, and then you have to look a certain way, but then you go on your social media, or then you advocate for all types of body shapes. It just doesn't add
up. It really doesn't. Because I think if you think about it, when you're consuming pornographic content, there's no portrayal of a relationship. There's no portrayal of growth together. There's no portrayal of the things that make you truly attractive to a loving partner. I think that's something that's lost in pornography, is like, my female sexuality is an expression of, like, it's an exterior expression of inner realities. If I'm an integrated woman, the good qualities about me, the humanity of myself, sometimes my messiness, all of these things that make Rachael can be expressed through my feminine sexuality. And how I approach the world in my everyday, how I interact with other people, how I interact with my spouse in a very specific way. But so I should never feel like that's all I have to offer, right? I should never feel like sex is just this performative, superficial act. I think we all want it to be something enjoyable and intimate, and
loving, and satisfying, safe, and comfortable,
fun, even, And I think pornography limits it to just you are what you present. And if image is all we have, then we do put stock in like, okay, if the exterior image is the only thing that makes me attractive, then I have to be perfect, right? But in reality, if like what makes us truly like sexually attractive to another person who loves us, if the reality is that like it's our personality, it's our hobbies, sometimes it's our flaws, it's a relationship that's on a trajectory of growth that we have with this person. If we're looking at it that way, then like, body image is so secondary. How we look is so secondary. Like, it's just an expression of these beautiful things that are already present in us. And that's what makes me so sad, is pornography divorces your identity from your sexuality. It takes identity out of the picture. It takes personality out of the picture. It just says all you have to offer is this exterior expression. It's just really, it's kind of boring. It's just not the same.
Well, the way you put it, it's just so interesting. I wish I could speak as eloquently about this topic. Thank you for putting that into such a divorce. Oh my gosh, that's so good. On that same vein about perception, especially the women that are in these videos or images, how would you respond to someone? Because I feel like there's this whole movement again of normalizing, but also empowering, right? It's empowering to be in sex work. It's empowering for that woman to own the work that she's in. And yet in this research that I was looking at, it perpetuates the belief that women are weaker, less intelligent, submissive, willing to be raped and assaulted, dominated sexually. Doesn't that just continues the cycle?
I don't.
It does. How do you reconcile that? Like, how do you respond to something like that, Rachael, that another woman would say, you know, she's doing her thing. It's empowering for her. If she chose it, then we should support her. How would you respond to something like that?
Yeah, I'm surprised that feminists are not more angry about pornography. I've thought this regularly. Like I try to be like a healthy feminist or have healthy feminist mindsets, but I think there's so much misogyny in pornography. It's like horrifying.
Yeah.
But so I think women tend towards two extremes in pornography, right? Like you either, yes, you're submissive, dominated, you are receptive of violence, you are a victim. And not only are you receptive of it, you're supposed to enjoy it, which is horrifying. Because if we're dealing with anybody who's experienced assault, anybody who's experienced just an unwanted sexual experience, telling them that they're supposed to enjoy that, like how on earth, you know, like can we reconcile that narrative? It's just really horrifying. So it's like we have that, or our other response is to dominate. And there's no balance in either one of those, that like empowerment. Like I think we have to just ask ourselves as women and be truly honest, like, and kind of examine this question in our hearts and minds. And again, in a non-judgmental way, because I've come to my own conclusions, and you can't, you know, I don't make conclusions for other people, but is empowerment truly in feeling like we dominate all of our sexual partners, and we have this sexual prowess, and we're submissive to all our sexual partners, or we have, you know, multiple partners, and, you know, all of this, and we can do whatever we want, whenever we want. Is that true liberation? Is that true freedom? Or is freedom the ability to do what our hearts desire with the full capacity that we want, right? Is freedom, personally, when I think about sexuality and intimacy, I think freedom is like the ability to lovingly express myself to my spouse in this way. Like for me, that's what that looks like, is if I'm going to express the fullness of my sexuality, it's in a sacred, safe union with my spouse. And it's something that increases intimacy. It's something joyful, it's something good. And I think women just have to examine that within themselves. Like, do they truly want their sex life to be one of submission and fear and just all sorts of twisted portrayals of violence? Or do they want it to be constantly dominating? Or do they want it to be an equal partnership that's founded in love and understanding and growth and, you know, all of these, and joy and fun and all of these beautiful things that come in a loving partnership, right? So I think you have to examine what actually speaks to your heart, you know? Is it either of these extremes? Because I think when you really get down to it as a woman, no, you want to be seen as an equal. You want to be loved, you know?
Yeah. And that's so beautifully put. And, you know, you talk about us being as women, and we have these innate gut feelings about things all the time. Right. And it's not just like voodoo stuff. My husband's always like, okay, it's not just your gut feeling. He's very, you know, facts and numbers and stuff like that. But I think for women, we have these like gut feelings about things, and it's usually a good pedometer of like, okay, that didn't feel good. I probably shouldn't do that again, or that was wrong, or whatever. And just the freedom, I feel like the freedom of pornography that comes from pornography, it's a instant pleasure, but it's only for that segment of time. Freedom in its truest sense lasts for, you know, it's long term. You feel it all the time.
That's a good word.
It becomes this much bigger piece to your life, where you can feel it in all aspects of your life, not just your sexuality. But when you engage in watching pornography, it's an instant gratification, and then it makes you feel weird afterwards, regardless if you admit it or not, right? There's this innate thing that makes you feel a certain way. That's not freeing, because you're going to have to dig through all of that and go, why do I feel that way? Or why don't I feel that way? And I don't think that's true freedom.
It's not.
So what would you recommend to women who want to overcome pornography, who are feeling that shame, that judgment, feeling that loss of self? Where should she start? Where should she reach out to your organization? Should she talk to someone in her community? What would you recommend?
Yeah. So first, I think the question that I ask every woman who comes to me with that is like, what do I do? Where do I begin? Is first like, what are you willing to do? Is this something you're actually committed to being free from, or is this something you're kind of wishy-washy about? Because wishy-washy will never get you to recovery, but hope and commitment will, and conviction will. And so I think you have to decide that you're willing to do what it takes to be free. And first, tell someone. If you haven't told anyone, tell someone you trust. Find accountability. You can definitely reach out to my organization. It's magdalaministries.org. So Magdala is MAGDALA ministries.org. There's another group called She Recovery that does virtual recovery groups as well. And I think I might be mistaken, but they're run by a really awesome woman who I've watched a few videos from, but don't know personally, but she's, incredible. But I think they follow more of a 12-step model. So both She Recovery and then Magdala, I think both have roots in Christianity, or, ours is specifically Catholic, but it's non-clinical. It's a support group, essentially. I'd also recommend seeking out a sex therapist. So a person who's specialized in treating these. And so you can look for a few different certifications, but people who are certified in marriage and family therapy typically have a lot more exposure to these issues. But there are certified sex addiction therapists, so a CSAT, and then a SATP is a sex addiction therapy provider. So that's also what I'm in school for. And I think seeking out somebody who's specialized is awesome, but finding accountability and help is key. Trying to do it by yourself is a nightmare. So
I can imagine.
That's part of why I created Magdala, is because I don't want any woman to journey alone, unless she wants to, unless she chooses to. But I think also the other two things are know your triggers and know them well. Study yourself, be curious about yourself, and don't immediately come at yourself with this judgment of like, why am I doing this? Be curious about your flaws and be curious about the reasons why you're seeking this out. So if you're, desiring pornography, ask yourself why. Be like, what happened today? Did I get enough sleep? Am I upset? Am I bored? Like what's going on that's triggering this? And did I watch a certain movie that triggered that? And just ask yourself those questions and start recording them. I encourage women to write them down. And then last is track your cycle. Holy cow. Oh my gosh, there's so much tie between, we could do a whole episode on this. There's a whole tie between your menstrual cycle and desire for pornography. There's a whole thing. So know that when you're ovulating, it's gonna be a beast. It really is. And you might be more tempted during that phase, and then during PMS as well. So, and on your period, you might be more tempted, but primarily that ovulation fertile window is going to be really tempting. So there's tons of evidence for that. So start tracking your cycle, be aware, and just kind of when that phase comes, of deeper temptation, and that's not the case for every woman, but that's a high percentage. When that phase comes, just make sure you're surrounded by people you love. Spend more time with friends that week, invest in your relationships, work hard, go to the gym, take care of your body, cook good meals, just make sure you're investing in taking care of yourself during that time. But those are my recommendations. I think just the first is just being honest with somebody, though. And that's what so many women aren't willing to do. But find somebody you trust, say you need help, tell them why, and ask them for accountability. Be like, can I check in with you once a week and tell you how I'm doing? Even if it's just a text, or can you check on me? That can go such a long way. It can really, really go a long way.
Yeah. And that just tells you, no person is an island. There's a community there that's willing and ready to help you. If you're a listener and you're struggling with this issue, or know someone that's struggling with this issue, please reach out to folks like Rachael and her organization. And here at 3W, we're a safe space. We're a compassionate, our medical providers are ready and willing to hear you out. Because the issues that you're dealing with physically could connect back to something like this, and the connections, and like you pointed out, Rachael, of your cycle, right? We do this program here called FEM, and I know Oh, good. Well, we'll have to have you come on for a third episode because Lauren, who is certified on our team, is certified in FEM. And wouldn't it be fun to have you kind of talk about the mental health side, and she can talk about the science behind your cycle? Okay, we'll have to schedule you again.
Yes.
but it's so good that you're doing this work. It's so needed. I'm so thrilled to be able to have resources for our patients who are struggling with this issue. Just talking things with you highlighted some, themes that we're seeing within our patient population. And it's really affirming to know that all is not lost.
Oh no,
there's so much hope.
Never.
So much hope.
Yeah. And women truly are so capable of relationship and intimacy. I think it's a gift we have.
Oh yeah. We're so resilient.
We are resilient.
Yeah.
So, it's, I have seen, it's such redemptive work. Like and we do virtual groups obviously, but, it's global. Like I have one group that has 10 countries represented in this recovery group.
That's awesome.
And I love this group. They're such beautiful women and so many beautiful accents too. It's just gorgeous hearing the conversation. But yeah, sometimes like women will just start crying. Yeah. They'll just start crying, just the freedom of being able to speak with other women about it and just watching the compassion that women naturally have for one another. It's just powerful. So if you need help, we have a space for you. Absolutely. We have a space for anybody who needs it. Or if you just want to reach out individually, you can fill out a form on our website and I'd be happy to chat with you individually too. So
awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Rachael, for coming back for a second epised with us. And it sounds like we're going to have you back again for a third, which is fine with me. Just thank you for what you do again. And just again, I just want to encourage listeners out there to reach out to folks like Rachael. You're not alone. There's still hope and we're here for you. So
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachael. All right. For more information about 3W, please visit our website at 3wmedical.org. That's the number 3, the letter W, medical.org. From there, you can learn more information about the services we provide, book an appointment, or make a donation if you'd like to support our mission. You can also call our office at 206-588-0311. That's 206-588-0311. If you like this episode, please share it with others and consider subscribing on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, stay healthy and be well.